Haunted comfort room. It was late, and the office building was eerily quiet. Only the hum of the fluorescent lights and the faint tapping of keyboards from the late-night workers broke the silence. Dana, a young intern working overtime, stretched and decided to take a break. She headed down the dimly lit hallway towards the comfort room. The comfort room was an old-fashioned term for a restroom, but in this building, it had an aura of something more sinister. Stories floated around the office about strange occurrences, mirrors that fogged over with handprints, toilets that flushed on their own, and whispers that came from empty stalls. Dana dismissed these tales as office folklore, spun to spook new employees. The restroom was at the end of the corridor, far from the bustling open office space. As she pushed open the heavy door, it creaked loudly, the sound echoing in the tiled room. Dana felt a chill despite the warmth of the building. She shook it off and walked over to the sink, splashing cold water on her face. As she looked up into the mirror, something felt off. The lights flickered, and for a split second, she thought she saw a shadow move behind her. She spun around, but the room was empty. With a nervous laugh, she blamed her tired mind for playing tricks on her. Dana moved to a stall, closing the door behind her. As she sat, she heard a faint whisper. It was so soft she almost didn't notice it. She strained to listen, thinking it might be a draft or the plumbing. But then, the whisper grew louder, more distinct. "Get out," it said. Her heart pounded in her chest. She finished quickly, wanting to leave the room as soon as possible. When she exited the stall, the room seemed darker, the air heavier. She hurried to the sink to wash her hands, her eyes darting around the room, searching for the source of the voice. The lights flickered again, and the mirror in front of her fogged up. Slowly, letters began to appear as if written by an invisible finger. "Leave now." Dana's blood ran cold. She backed away, her breathing quickening. Just then, the restroom door slammed shut on its own. Dana jumped and turned to face it, her heart in her throat. She tried to calm herself, thinking it was just a draft. She reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as she pulled harder, desperate to escape. Behind her, the whispering started again, louder and more urgent. "Get out," it repeated, over and over. She banged on the door, screaming for help, but the thick walls of the building swallowed her cries. The lights flickered one final time and went out, plunging the room into complete darkness. In the pitch black, Dana felt a presence, cold and malevolent. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, pressing in on her, suffocating her. She fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking, and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the restroom empty once more, but the oppressive feeling remained. Desperation clawed at her as she shined the light around the room, looking for any way out. Her beam landed on the mirror again, and she saw her reflection, pale and terrified. But behind her reflection stood a figure, dark and featureless, with glowing red eyes. Dana screamed, the sound echoing off the tiles. She felt a cold hand on her shoulder, and with a final burst of strength, she wrenched the door open and stumbled into the hallway, falling to her knees. She looked back, expecting the figure to follow, but the door swung shut with a soft click, leaving her alone in the hallway. She ran back to her desk, grabbed her things, and fled the building, vowing never to stay late again. The stories were true, the comfort room was haunted, and it was a warning she would heed from now on. The building returned to its eerie silence, waiting for the next late-night worker to wander into the haunted comfort room.